We're really excited again to be here at the NCAA today. Obviously, with the attention given to March Madness, the timing here is very relevant for us. And with us today, we've got three members of their communications and championship team. We've got Dana, Jordan, and Chris. I'll let them go into their dividing and conquering of how they manage all of this. But in meeting with Dana, it was really fascinating. As a college sports fan of arguably some of the best teams in the country, I felt like I sort of had an idea about what the NCAA was all about. But in then talking to Dana, there's a lot of misconceptions about who the NCAA is. And it was also quite eye-opening to see their challenge in the digital space of how many channels they have, how many accounts they have, and the exposure that they have and the attention that they get. So I think this will be a great talk today. We'll leave some time at the end for Q&A, and then we'll close it out with a quick chat from Brackets for Good. See them in the orange shirts, look like little light bright pegs sitting around the tables. But Dana, Jordan, and Chris, stage is yours. Thank you.
Hi everyone, and thank you for coming out today. We know there are probably a lot of misconceptions about the NCAA, but even here in Indianapolis, one thing that I often hear when I say I work at the NCAA, they're like, oh, you work at the Hall of Fame? A lot of people don't realize that the national headquarters for this giant organization is right here in Indianapolis. So I'm glad you guys could come in. I hope a lot of you had never been in here before, and so that you're seeing this for the first time. But our office has about 500 people in it, and we support over 1,100 schools across the country, more than 460,000 student athletes. And whether you know it or not, we actually have 89 different championships for 23 sports across 3 divisions. So today, we lure you all in here with March Madness and Final Four, which we will talk about, don't worry. But we also wanted to just show you a little bit more about what we do and how it's so much bigger than just that one championship that we're all so familiar with that starts in March. So we'll start out real quick just by explaining who we all are. So as you can see, when it comes to a social media strategy, championships and communications work very closely together. So we always say 2 departments, 1 voice, or anytime we're communicating anything, we try to make sure everyone in the office is communicating with that one voice, that one message. I have a PR background, so that will come out when I'm talking about this stuff. So as you see, the communications staff over here, we're definitely focused on our brand, the brand messaging, and trying to help people better understand what the NCAA is and what we do. So I'm the director of web communication, which means I oversee our social, video, and web strategy. So NCAA.org is the web that we run, the website that we run. So if you get a chance, take a look. Let me know if you have any feedback, because we're constantly trying to improve that. And we also, and I said I oversee the social strategy, I need to also say that we share that with championships. So I have my counterpart over in championships, Nate Flannery, where we work very closely together just to make sure that that strategy covers everything. So we have Jordan, who is here, who's going to talk about the way we integrate the brand into March Madness specifically. And then we have Chris Dion, who works on the championship staff, and he's going to talk a little bit about how this all works together as well. So, but we also want to give a shout out to the rest of our teams, and actually we have a bunch of people from our communications and championship staff back there, I think. So thanks to all of them, and if you have any questions, they all can help answer them as well. One of the other things that I want to mention on here real quick is when I say communications and championships works together, you'll see down here at the bottom of the communications list, we mentioned public relations and SMEs, which around here that's subject matter experts. And we'll get into that a little bit later when I show you some of our niche accounts that we use those subject matter experts in social media to help explain some little bit more difficult things to understand. Then over in championships, they also work very closely with Turner Sports. They actually run NCAA.com out of Atlanta. So Chris is in communication with Turner Sports probably multiple times a day, just trying to make sure that we're all on the same page. And LOCs, we're going to talk about that. Chris will talk about LOCs. That stands for Local Organizing Committees. We have them in every city for every championship, some much bigger than others, but we couldn't put our championships on without the help of these local organizing committees, so that's a big part of everything we do. So first, let me talk about our priorities. We have 2 real big goals that we try to focus on, and the first one is communicating NCAA messages to increase awareness and understanding. So we really want to help you understand what it's like to be a student athlete, the benefit of being a student athlete, and the value of college sports to our society as a whole. Those are things we're always trying to get people to understand about the enterprise. The other thing is growing an engaged and informed audience. And this is where we utilize those championship venues. The championships are on TV, other aspects of our organization like that, to help you better understand what we're about. So this gives you a snapshot of where we are. I would imagine most of you are surprised that we had this many social media accounts. Would anyone imagine the NCAA had 31 Twitter feeds? And it seems like overkill, but wait till we break it down and it'll make a little bit more sense going forward. Jordan, you want to talk about some of our different pages?
Hello. My name is Jordan Schwartz. I'm the Associate Director of Social Media Strategy over in the communications side of the house. So these are our social media accounts. We're most active on Twitter. As you can see, there's 31 Twitter feeds. And we'll break it down for you a little bit more as we go through the presentation today. But we have 10 sport championship feeds that Chris will talk a little bit more about after he gets settled.
I just can't see what I'm
and then we have a number of brand messaging feeds as well, such as @NCAA, which is our big brand feed, @Inside the NCAA, which is more of our PR feed. We have a Division II, Division III, and then some of our niche accounts are our special interest accounts like SSI, our Sports Science Institute, research, statistics, things like that. We also have personal Twitter feeds for everyone on our social team, like you saw before, @NCAA Dana, @NCAA Jordan. And then our public and media relations staff also are on Twitter as well, so they can interact with the media, who's very active in that space. Because we know the media is out there, they're on Twitter all the time, and we want us to be out there as well. It helps to humanize the NCAA and helps our PMR staff interact with the media in a space that they're very active. So that's what gets us up to 31. For Facebook, all of our championships, our sports have Facebook feeds as well. Not all of our brand accounts have Facebook feeds, just NCAA and Division II and Division III. We also have 5 YouTube channels. Each division has one. There's also an overall NCAA YouTube channel and an on-demand YouTube channel, which is mostly for championship side of the house. 3 Instagram pages, NCAA Sports, which is our overall NCAA Instagram feed. Division II also has one, and March Madness. We started a March Madness Instagram page about 1.5 years ago. 3 LinkedIn pages, which is on the communications side of the house. We have our NCAA LinkedIn page, which is the company page, try to get people to work here at the national office. And then there's also a former student athlete LinkedIn page, which we recently took over from someone who's a former student athlete who ran it on his own, grew it to 22,000 members, and then we took it over within the past 6 or 8 months here at the national office, and it's been growing ever since. That really partners with our After the Game former student athlete initiative that's been running out of communications. So that's where we highlight stories about people who've been student athletes and then what they go on to achieve after the game is over. So that's a place for former student athletes to network, interact, help each other get jobs. And then our final LinkedIn page is another one that recently got rebranded by our leadership staff. It used to be just for student athletes, and now it's sort of flipped, and it's for anyone who's interested in working in college athletics. So now it's not just for student athletes, but anyone interested in becoming an athletic director or someone working in compliance, if they wanted to work here. So we have a little bit something for everybody on our 3 LinkedIn pages. Google+, we're still hanging in there with Google+. We have an NCAA account, which we don't post to too often, but then we have a March Madness account, which actually has over 300,000 followers. We're not sure who they are. But we continue to post to that account because they are there, and we want to give people a chance to engage on that platform as well. So overall, we've grown in the past 4 years from about 240,000 to over 5 million across all of our 50+ social media accounts.
All right, now we want to talk about some of the individual feeds. We talked about our brand platforms a little bit, and Jordan mentioned these, which first of all I need to say, as I was putting this together, we look totally schizophrenic with all these different logos. I'm promising, and I'm telling you all this now, we're going to fix it, because that's just bad business. So we're working on that, but as you can see, we have a lot of different kind of brand platforms out there. Jordan talked about Division II and Division III. He mentioned SSI, which is our Sports Science Institute, Research Stats, Hall of Champions, which a lot of people around here call the Hall of Fame. It's actually called the Hall of Champions, so when you hear someone say that, go ahead and correct them. You have my permission. So our brand platforms, again, this just shows you the kind of audiences we have on these. And as we like to call them a lot of times, is our niche audiences. So we have people who are specifically interested in Division II and Division III content, so we're going to target them and give them exactly what they're looking for. We don't expect everyone to come into this huge channel and sort through what they want. We break it down for them to follow and get the information that they need. So you'll see, like, even research. We have a very robust research department here at the NCAA, and they do some amazing research on student athletes. There are some studies on how they perceive themselves as student athletes, who sees them as being a student first, athlete first. Like, they go out and they do surveys with student athletes. So it's very exciting information, and it's information that's unique to us, that only we have. So we definitely want to push that out as much as we can. Sports Science Institute is another. That's a fairly new department here at the NCAA. They're doing some great things with concussion research and study, and so that feed is probably followed by a lot of researchers or doctors or team physicians or trainers, but we're communicating with them directly from that feed, so that's kind of the approach we take with them. But as you see, our main NCAA feed at NCAA is kind of our big channel there where we communicate with people. I think we're over 1.5 million today, right? Awesome. So if some of you started following us, thank you. So yeah, that is our big channel, and that's where we communicate most of our major messages. And how many times a day are you tweeting on that feed?
Like 6 to 10, something like that.
So it's a very active feed. We do a lot of unique tweets and driving people back to NCAA.org, but we also do a lot of sharing and retweeting of our member schools, some of the good stories they have out there. So it's kind of two-purpose that what we're doing there with that feed. The Inside the NCAA feed is also kind of like our PR feed. We use that to communicate to members of the media and also to our member schools. A lot of people from the membership follow us there. So we often will tweet the same thing on Inside the NCAA and NCAA, but we'll tweet it differently. On NCAA, we will communicate it in a very plain language, kind of fan-focused kind of way. And then on Inside the NCAA is where we can really get into we say NCAA speak, where we use a lot of acronyms and some of the language like legislation and things like that. So we can really get more in the weeds with that feed. So that's kind of how we differentiate between the two. Sport platforms, would you like to talk about this?
Sure.
Okay.
So what about the sports, right? There's a lot of discussion there about all of our communications and the messaging that we have and the PR focus, and which is really the birth of our social strategy. And then we've expanded to really reach out to our fans because we realize our fans are here and know our brand because of the sport. They know us because of NCAA basketball or NCAA football more than they know us as an NCAA legislative body that helps student athletes become better student athletes. So we've birthed, this is our list of our sport platforms. We don't have all 89 sports, quite frankly. Covering rifle would be very difficult from the national office. I'm not sure if all of you knew we had a rifle or bowling, fencing. You know, I'm not up on my epee and all the fencing lingo, so we're not quite able to really cover all of our sports equally. So we've chosen these 8 sports, plus football actually has 2 divisions that we cover, that really resonate well with fans. They're places where our fans go to interact, and then we provide the NCAA messaging around those. So as you can see, these are our very active feeds. Actually, we have 2 basketball feeds, men's and women's basketball. So yeah, we're very active in this space, and it's really about the fan, it's about the game, it's about the sports, it's about the scores, and it's really about the student athletes. So we do a really nice job of integrating student athlete stories with a sports update, or going into a game, you'll see, you know, on any given day really, that students are about to compete, and it could be regular season. We'll go in with some interest stories about the day and give you that other side of the perspective, because in about a couple hours, you're about to watch the game live, and you know, you're going to know the score, and someone's going to tell you what's going on, but we'd like to give you that other side of the coin up front. Any idea out of all these, what might be our biggest platform outside of basketball? Anybody want to take a guess? Right there, wrestling. The answer is wrestling. Yeah, it is interesting, right? I first came here, I was like, wrestling? Okay, I knew a couple wrestlers in high school. What this really turns out to be is passionate people who are attracted to passionate spaces, right? So what we do here is, I'm assuming most of us are digital marketers or digital content creators in some sense. And really what these people do is they flock to these communities where we're able to foster and kind of like build them up, right? So like basketball is just any Joe basketball fan. This is our March Madness feed. You got, right now the Kentucky fans are hot, right? It's all about blue, 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 bleed blue, big blue nation. This is the world we live in. But down on the wrestling side, you've got people who all they care about is wrestling. And when I mean care about wrestling, they are the most passionate people I've ever seen. And it doesn't matter what team it is. It doesn't matter if it's their team. It doesn't matter if it's someone else's team. It doesn't matter if somebody beat them. It doesn't matter if they beat someone else. All they care about is their wrestlers, and they want to talk about wrestling. And that's why that community has grown so much as it has, and it's why it's our second largest community up there. But what we're seeing is that passion transcend through a lot of our other sports as well. So I think kind of the moral of the story is what we learned after a year or two is if you can really harness that passion, you can really grow a community. And I would like to say that all of these communities, with the exception of men's basketball, have been birthed organically. So it's really about passionate people coming together.
So we talked earlier about helping people better understand what the NCAA is about and what we do. So how do we do March Madness? Well, one of the things that our department does with Chris and Jordan and everybody else on our team is we try to take advantage of that active audience during March Madness. So we know you were here for the basketball, but did you know, it's kind of like how we got you guys here today. Only 1.2% of college basketball players will play in the NBA. Is that surprising to anyone in the room? Probably not. But a lot of people watching the tournament, especially young kids in high school, think, oh, I'm going to play in the NBA. And we're not doing this to crush dreams, but we definitely want to bring a sense of reality to this culture of sports being your path through life, because it doesn't happen for a lot of kids. So this is one of the things we try to make more realistic for them. Another one is, did you know that there's more than $57 million available for student athlete assistance? So a lot of times, like when you hear these stories about a student athlete couldn't get a coat because it was too cold, there's a fund there for them to do that. If a student athlete's parent is sick or dies and can't afford to fly home, there's a fund to help them get there. A lot of these things are misconstrued in the media because a lot of people just don't know about it. And to be frank, a lot of our members don't know how much of this money is actually available or how to get it. So this is one of those messages we continually try to educate people on. And another, nearly 20% of NCAA athletes are first-generation college students. And that's also a surprising statistic, and it's also why this enterprise is so important. It's so important for student athletes to have a realistic view of where sports will take them, but it's also such a path for them to get to college and actually excel and become contributing members of the society. And this is kind of the role that the NCAA plays in this process. Another thing, and this is a real-time example, and Monica, I'm giving a shout out to after the game here. Real-time example of how we're going to actually use the game space on TV and on the court. You'll see these LED message boards along the side of the court. And this year, when you're watching the games, you'll see a website being promoted, ncaa.org/afterthegame. And when you go to that website, you're going to see this page where it explains a lot of players actually playing in that game. That'll be their last game. So what happens next? Well, we have a program called NCAA After the Game, and it's where we're trying to build this career center for former student athletes to connect with other organizations who specifically look to hire student athletes. And we see a lot of media attention to that because a lot of employers out there understand the benefits of knowing how to be a member of a team, knowing how to manage your time. There are a lot of benefits to being a student athlete, so we're trying to connect those dots for them. So you'll see this promoted during the game. Check out the website. There's a lot of information there, a lot of good content for how this all works together. All right, now let's talk a little bit about the reason you're here, right? The Final Four.
We're good. We're good. So, you know, wonderfully, the Final Four is in Indianapolis this year, and which is really exciting. And we hope that you all can participate with us. It's a really cool event. There's a lot more than, you know, a couple basketball games. But we kind of wanted to talk to you about how we deal with this socially. And one of the ways we do with this is by having two audiences. One of our audiences is the Final Four, and the other is March Madness, which we call NCAA men's basketball. This is kind of a simple way to explain how these work, but the realities are March Madness is really about on the court, student athletes, scores, advancing through the tournament. It's really the fan feed. It's a place where people want to know about the information about the games that are happening. So really cool fact, if you set an alert on this phone on your Twitter account, you'll get all these updates during March. It'll be a ton of updates, but you'll at least know everything that's going on. There's a ton of great content. We work with Turner. We go hunker down in a war room with 35 people to produce all this content. It's really, really unique. So that's the March Madness side. Now the other side is the Final Four side. And about 3 years ago, we realized that social was kind of this connecting point for the local community, right? This was like, we needed to find a way to talk to people who live in these communities who maybe aren't aware that the Final Four is coming. Believe it or not, people are not aware that the Final Four comes to like local cities. It's like, blew my mind when I was in Dallas and Atlanta, and they were sitting in a meeting and we're talking about how are we going to get people to know that the Final Four is coming? And I'm like, it's the Final Four. Like, how do people not know it's not coming to their city? And truth be told, people just don't know, especially in cities, people who live in suburbs and whatnot who don't travel into the city often. They're, oh, it's going to be full of traffic. I don't want to be there. The reality is people just either don't know or don't want to come. So it's our job to inform them and make it a sweet enough deal that they come out. And the way we do that is through the Final Four accounts. At Final Four, and we'll talk about this a little bit later, we have a Facebook page, Instagram, and Twitter account. And really the focus is on the local market and getting you all to come to our events and have a good time. We've got a ton of free events and a whole bunch of stuff happening. And then in the middle, we kind of share this audience and this focus, and we talk to the same fans. So once the March Madness account transfers over, comes to Indy, we can kind of talk to that same audience and share and interact a little bit more. So I spend about 9 months of my year planning for this one event called the Final Four. And then about 2 months before March, I have this freak out moment, and I go, hold on, there's a whole entire basketball tournament that has to happen before we get to the Final Four, in which I go through this whole planning process, and we were planning clearly earlier than that. But it's this real moment come January 2nd when we come back to the office, we're like, wow, okay, we gotta do this basketball tournament first. So we kind of meet in the middle when we get here, and we kind of talk to one another, the counts, and we kind of bring everyone together and really celebrate this event that's in this city. So that's kind of our two strategies around basketball. Okay, so March Madness, I'll start with the March Madness strategy a little bit deeper. This is a new program we're starting, and I'm going to take an opportunity to tease this and kind of give you a little inside access today. We're launching a program next Wednesday called Select 68, where in the past we've taken people into the selection room via tweets. We've had a couple photographs here and there. I kind of liken this to, the Vatican has to go pick a new pope, right? So they have like the black smoke and the white smoke, and nobody knows what's going on in this room, and we imagine what it looks like. Actually, it's the Sistine Chapel, so it has beautiful ceilings. We don't have quite the same ceilings, but our goal is to bring you inside the selection process this year. And the way we're going to do that is by shutting down our accounts. We're going private for 5 days. So if you don't follow us before we go into the selection room, you won't have access to this content. And then after the selections, after the doors are open and the committee comes out of the room, we're going to open the account, and you'll be able to see what happened, but we're going to unload and give you the bracket, basically on Selection Sunday. We've got a ton of content planned out of this, a couple unique platforms we're going to be using. We're going to be doing a photo essay. Every year we claw at the committee to get a little bit more information, and this year they've agreed to give us a little bit more. So I'm hoping it's a lot of bit more, but we'll see. Basically, that's kind of where we're starting this year of our new campaign, but really what it starts is a selection process, which is very much an NCAA process. I mean, I think college football playoff this year was really the first to ever expose a process, and I don't think they did it really, really well, but we're looking to do it every year. We look to do it for all of our championships a little bit more. So it's something that's unique to the NCAA, so we're trying to bring that to the public. So follow us before you can't, I guess, is the bottom line. You want this or you want me to take it? All right.
So one of the other things that we do on our March Madness account is we want to give you inside access, because you can get a lot of this information, the on-the-court game coverage, from a lot of different accounts. But one of the great things about working for the NCAA is that we get a little bit more inside access than the media gets. And so we want to give that to our followers, to our fans. Go behind the scenes. This was a great shot that Chris took last year of Wisconsin, looking at the massive AT&T Stadium before they took the court for the first time. And then on the right, you see, behind the scenes of the empty stadium, empty set, one of Turner's sets that was set up inside the stadium in North Texas. So, that's how he took most of his videos, with his Google Glass. There's a bunch of different things that we want to do during March Madness. We want to educate our fans, and we want to entertain them. So we use 3 different platforms to do this: Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. As you can see on the left was one of our biggest posts of the entire tournament last year, when Mercer upset Duke in the round of 64. Got more than 7,500 retweets on the post of one of the kids doing his very famous dance after the upset. We want to be the official source of tournament news. So we're sitting in that war room down in Atlanta at Turner during the first weekend of the tournament, watching 4 games at the same time, and posting in real time, and doing more than just giving score updates, really being a fan, and saying what's on everyone's mind. This is March Madness. This is what it's all about right here, the Cinderella upsetting the juggernaut in the early stages of the tournament. In the middle, our Facebook post here, and through a partnership with Facebook, we get a lot of video from Turner when we're down there, and Facebook really helps us to promote it and increases our reach, so it hits a lot of people. When you embed a video on Facebook and they help us out, it reaches hundreds of thousands of people, especially big clips like this one during Kentucky's surprising run to the championship game last year. On Instagram, that's a place where we want to really highlight some of the great photos that we're getting, whether it be from our Clarkson Photography, who's our NCAA photo source, or from the wires. We have subscriptions to AP, Getty, USA Today, so we have access to a lot of photos. We're walking around taking photos behind the scenes as well, just on our cameras. So we have access to a lot of photos, and it's just a place where we want to highlight March Madness and the Final Four in images, more than, whereas Twitter is more about words combined with images. So it's 3 different platforms. We try to diversify our content as much as possible. If there's something big, we'll repeat it across all 3 platforms, but we really want each platform to be a different specific place where you can get something a little bit different, because there's so much going on during the tournament. Talk about this.
So the Final Four's here, like we talked about. So what does the Final Four account look like? Has anybody seen this in Indy yet? Good, because it's not real. This is a pitch I put together. I wanted to do this, and it got killed. So I figured I got to use it somewhere, right? Before it dies on my desktop. But I just admire it, and it looks great, and I like it. But I was going to jury duty, and I shot that, and I was sitting at jury duty, and I was like, I'm going to build something. I got time. So this is a product of my jury duty waiting. So here's where I'm going to ask for some help. You all are social experts, and you are all the people that we need to carry these messages for us. So, and you all live in this community. So please take part in any of these accounts. Engage with us. We'd love to hear from you. We'd love your help. We'd love you to be content creators for us as you enjoy yourself at our events. We've got a pretty robust system. in place working with the LOC that we're going to kind of, how we're going to manage this whole process. We've got a lot of people who want to help, and we've got a lot of things to do. So one of the really cool things is we're going to be bringing the community into a room with us to help us do this. So,
are there people in the room who are going to be a part of that?
Yeah, we've got a couple. Yeah, got a couple folks over here who are going to be a part of this. So it should be really exciting. So this is how we're going to do this, right? This beautiful conference room at the Indiana Sports Corp that Dedman took the other day. I love this picture, by the way, like this haze over the Lucas Oil Stadium. So we've had this dream of, the Super Bowl did a great job of a social lounge, right? And this idea of bringing social together. And we had this dream of, how can we bring fans into this space? And, to be quite frank, things got out of control with visions and dreams and budgets and whatnot. So we've dialed it back to really like, what is the whole purpose of this? The whole purpose of this is to make a fan's interaction with this city great, right? And make sure that they have a wonderful time at this event. I'm humbled, earlier in the season, we realized Forbes announced that the Final Four is the 5th largest sporting event in the world. And I'm humbled to think that that's coming to my city, and I'm able to help work on that. And I want to make sure that everyone who is a part of this city gets that experience through social media. So this is really kind of the purpose of this. The way we're going to do this is first and foremost is social listening for a whole bunch of reasons, safety, experience, content. We're really going to be listening to what fans are talking about, how can we help them, a little concierge function, and then customer service. And then third on that list is event marketers, right? It's got to be about event promotion. We got to get you here. We got to get you to the right spots. We got to make sure that you're having a good time and you know how to get there. If there's traffic, hey, we can help you get there another way. Those are really the 3 main purposes of this. We've got a lot of people who are going to be involved in this process, like I had said, but it's going to be cool. We're going to build that whole room out. There's going to be a whole lot of time spent in a room. I don't know how many people have worked in a command center, but it's not as glorious as those articles in Mashable or Fast Company read. But it's what we do, and when you look at it from the other side, it's pretty cool. So, I just wanted to thank everyone who's a part of this process. The Indiana Sports Corp has put a bunch of resources into this entire event, and they've put a lot of people behind this, so it's really, really important. Ball State, Visit Indy, Speakeasy, Brackets for Good are all going to be helping us with the volunteer process in the social hub, and that's extremely important to staff this for about 22 hours a day for a while. We need bodies to do that, and they're graciously accepted to help us. And then lastly is our technology partners. GeoFedia, which is local, they're over there. Thanks, guys. We were looking for a geo solution, and happened to stumble upon them the day that they arrived in Indy, which was awesome. So we're going to have a quick breakdown of how the tech works on the backside. So we're going to be listening to the geo fence. So whether or not you use a hashtag or a keyword and whatnot, we're going to be capturing that and listening to that, and culling through that content to communicate, as well as Systemos, which is our listening partner. I just went through our Boolean statement the other day. It's like over 1,400 words, and I was like, this is crazy. But they've worked really hard with us to kind of capture this overall conversation. And then Tagboard is our outward-facing product. So Tagboard's an in-venue product that allows you to put social media up on video boards, started in sports. But we're taking it and putting it on any available screen we can get in Indy. So hopefully you'll walk around bars, you'll walk around hotels, and you'll see our social content kind of streaming through there. So, and all of that is going to be curated, culled through, worked through, repurposed, produced, all through that social hub that I talked about earlier. So thank you for all of you who are participating in this project. We really help. It's really going to help us. So this is where I need your help. First and foremost, please use the hashtag Final4, or @mention us if you need something. This is what we all do, but it's really funny because the other day I was going through the feed and I was like, Final4 Indy. Nope, not the hashtag. Final Four 2015, nope, not the hashtag. People just make up their own, like we all know, but as marketers, it makes us angry, right? This is the official hashtag, please use it. And then the other thing is we've really birthed from, I'm from the digital social side of the championships group, so the other part of my job is the digital side. And we launched a Final Four app, which I can say is really, really cool. It's gotten way better over the years. We've really worked to improve it. The LSC has brought together some really nice ideas this year. And it's got a scheduling function. It's not available right now. It'll be available hopefully next week. We had a little snafu with the legal in how we were going to deliver it to you. So we were on hold for a week, which is kind of our world, right? I don't know how many of you guys deal with legal, but sometimes they're your friends, sometimes they're not. But I would advise that you download this. It's got a really cool schedule builder. You can go through and, this is what I want to do at the Final Four. And then it'll basically walk around the city. It's like, hey, your event's starting. Hey, you can go here. Here's how to get there. It's a great way to get around the city. And I mean, we all know where we're going, but it tells you what times things are starting, and there's tons of events. So this is what's about to happen in the city. And I don't know, I'm going to take like 2 minutes to kind of just give a rundown of what the key events are. These are what we focus on social as far as our event promotion. The first is the Final Four Friday. I don't know who has a game ticket here, who's going to be going to the Final Four. Likely not many people. It's a pretty exclusive ticket to get. If you have one, awesome, enjoy yourself. But the Final Four Friday is a great way to go into Lucas Oil Stadium, see the court, see the student athletes, and it's free. It's all day afternoon on Friday. And then there's an all-star game in the evening, so you can watch some of the best college players from this year play. It's a really cool event. It's unique. You can get like third row, a ticket that would cost, quite a bit and just hang out. It's a really nice day. It's actually one of my favorite days around this event. We've got the Capital One Fan Fest. Used to be Bracketown. This is where you can go and participate in all these, fun things. There's also a lounge. You can go have a couple beers beforehand, and it will lead you into the Final Four as well. So if you want to go there before the game, it's kind of a cool spot. Similar to like the Big Ten Fan Fest, but times like 12. So it's really cool. For you runners out there, we've got the Road to the Final Four 5K, and then we've got the Final Four Dribble, which is for the kids. This is actually a really cool event of 3,000 kids dribbling basketballs through Indiana. It's kind of through the city, and it's a really neat sound as well as a cool sight to see all these kids doing that. So, and then lastly is the March Madness Music Festival. What's that? What's the talent? Oh, I have no idea.
We really don't.
In all honesty, we don't. There's a lot of sponsors involved, and we have to coordinate efforts so everyone's fair and balanced, and we all get to do it at the same time. So Monday, we're hoping there'll be an announcement about who the talent is, but I can tell you this. It's one of the best free events I've ever seen. It's incredible. And we're moving it over to the White River State Park this year, where it was before. It was supposed to be somewhere else, but we're going back there. It's awesome, and it's free, and it gives you an opportunity to see some really good artists. So, and lastly, I have this clear bag that I forgot. It's so clear you can't see it. All of these events have a clear bag policy. We just want to tell you this just so, because you guys are kind of our connecting points to the city. All of our events this year have a clear bag policy, which is literally a bag that's clear, that it's the same thing you have to deal with Lucas Oil Stadium for an NFL game, but this rule will be involved at all of our events. So they'll be all over the city. They're free. They're a cool free souvenir. Grab one if you see one. Hand a couple out for us, it'd be great. Just take 4 and hand them to 3 other people, that'd be awesome. So,
one last thing is, you see that URL up there, final4.com. Keep checking that website out because it'll give you all the updated information about these events. It also has, it does have a flyer on there that explains what bags are acceptable to take in venues. So I really encourage you guys to go take a look at that website. So that's all we have for you today. I think we went a little bit longer than we should have, but we want to open it up for Q&A.
Yep, we've got about 5 minutes or so for questions. Right there in front.
So I think the Select 68 campaign sounds awesome. Could you guys talk a little bit through the ideation process behind that, and then a little bit about what you're planning to do strategically to keep people from piggybacking off of it? Because it wouldn't take much for Lunardi just to copy and paste everything you say for the people that are kind of blocked off to it.
Yeah, perfect. Great question. So we've been planning the selections process for a couple months, right? How are we going to do this? How are we going to make it different? And then we were talking through it. These are how these, these cocktail napkin moments, right? And I was like, what if we just didn't let anybody see it, right? Anybody who's not a part of it, we just closed the door. And then we just kind of walked it backwards and we're like, yeah, why can't we do it? And then we immediately called Twitter and we're like, okay, so if I do this, am I gonna get shut down? And they're like, no, you can do that. Oh, but wait a minute. When you go back, you won't be verified. So we had to work through this whole process with them and they just got in trouble for, I don't know, I'm sure we all saw the Taco Bell campaign where they transferred followers. Did you guys see that, where they took their followers to 0 overnight and people were like, what happened? They're like, you're not trying to do that, are you? And I'm like, no. They're like, okay, you can do whatever you want. That's good. So it was really, again, one of those cocktail napkin moments where it was just like drawn out. We're like, yeah, why don't we do this? But as far as the content getting out, we call those leaks. We'd love them. So Joe Lunardi, go for it, man. I think that's really the best part, because then people see the content's coming from March Madness, they go to follow us, nope, you can't. Sorry, you're out. That's the point. Our fans are already gonna, most of our fans aren't even gonna know the difference, right? It's gonna be selection, the door closes, our fans are just gonna see a whole bunch of content, they're gonna be like, oh, cool, content, right? But somebody's gonna take the content out, and then that's where it's gonna be like, oh man, are they talking about Oklahoma now? Let's go find out. Nope, you can't be there. So that's really, we're really hoping for the leaks. The leaks are really what we need. The other thing that was kind of a surprise too was working through this backwards was a private account, there's your engagement levels and reach levels and like all your metrics are like totally screwed up. So we're gonna have this huge cavern in our data this year, but I'm totally okay with it. It's a sacrifice that we're willing to make for, to tell a great story. And I think a lot of times we have to make those sacrifices or break the norm to figure out, some good content. So, great question though.
So I'm just curious because it just seems to me that the social media landscape for your organization is so really huge. Like you mentioned about the 31 Twitter feeds and Google Plus and everything. What exactly is your measurement strategy? How do you take care of the strategy for how do you measure everything? Your performance on social media?
Yeah.
I think it varies.
Yeah, it definitely varies. I'll let you talk about the communication strategy, but when we first started, that was one of the biggest things was like, how do we measure this, right? What's the value of this was the biggest thing. What's the value? And what we slowly found out is there was a need for a marketing and a product side. I hate to say that. I mean, it's not a word we often use in this building, but we've got to get fans to go to these events, and we've got to tell these stories, and we have to have people to listen, right? I mean, thankfully the Final Four sells itself, but 86 other championships, we have to work, and to get people in those buildings, and that's what we're trying to do. So from our side, from the championship side, it's ticket sales, like connecting ticket sales, and we use audience engagement and reach. We have 3 basic metrics that we use, and we want to grow a healthy audience at all times. It's not our main focus, but we use engagement, and engagement with marketing content is really important for us too. So, organic engagement and telling a great story is definitely one part of it. But how are people engaging with our marketing content? Are we doing a good job with our marketing content? If we see a drop on engagement, we need to change our marketing content. Is the marketing mix with our organic mix correct? Those are kind of that side of the engagement, and then the flat out reach numbers are really important to us right now. Now that we've got a true reach number on Twitter and Facebook, we can go to our broadcast team and say for FCS this year, we reached more people on FCS social media platforms, which amasses to like 35,000 people as a total audience, than ESPN broadcast did. So social has eclipsed an ESPN broadcast viewer number. To me, that's a win. I'm winning. And our team is winning, and our student athletes are winning, especially in FCS football. Whereas college football playoff, people are going to see that game, right? But FCS football, these are athletes who work just as hard as these other athletes who don't have the same resources. But we're getting them more eyeballs than TV could. That's a win in my book.
And now it does vary a little bit with communications. So you see all those diversified channels that we have. And so for instance, research and SSI, we're not so interested in growing a massive audience. We want to communicate with the right audience. We want the right audience to consume what we want them to know. So a lot of the things we look at, we definitely look at the social engagement, the shares, the retweets, the comments and engages, the likes. But one of the things that I really focus on is the time spent on our website. So a lot of the times when we're communicating with those individual feeds, we're pushing out specific links back to our content on NCAA.org. And so to me, when we get I say the majority of the people who come back to our site from those feeds are spending 4 minutes on a page. I mean, that's a huge win for us because we assume people are reading, consuming, and understanding the content. And at the end of the day, that's what we want them to do. So you see how it varies a little bit between communications and championships. But for communications, we definitely rely on social media to drive time on page of our website. Good question.
We've got time for one more. John, maybe that.
When the Super Bowl came to Indianapolis, there was a great opportunity where you have a lot of people in this room that love the city and want to showcase our hometown. With the Final Four coming here, obviously there's a ton of volume of conversation that some of the content that we may be sharing may get lost in that. Is there a way, you may not know now, but is there a way that we as ambassadors for the city and social influencers, and is there a way that we can share that content with you in a way that you could end up sharing it if you chose to your accounts?
That's a great question.
Kind of like the Social 46 or the Super 46, yeah.
Yeah, we
You may not know now, but I mean, through Chuck and NDSM, you can easily communicate.
Yeah, and I was just with Instagram a couple weeks ago, and they were asking me about these Insta-meets, and if we were interested in an Insta-meet. And I don't know if there's been an Insta-meet in Indy, but this is kind of this idea that had birthed with me, and quite frankly, it came to me a little bit too late that we are not going to be able to execute it. But we do, just to your point, have so many great content creators and so many smart people in this room, in this city, around this event. We need to figure out a way to do that. We definitely do, and we need to do it easily so that you all can submit things. Let me give a second with that, and if you want to meet afterwards, let's chat about it. Yeah, thank you.
That was actually quicker than John usually goes.
Rewinding back a little bit, when you're showing the individual sports pages and their numbers, football sort of dominates America, but I noticed that was like ranked 4th. Is that a function of the fans connecting more with the conferences, or the fans not as engaged? Why is that ranked lower than volleyball and wrestling?
The space is saturated, quite frankly. Team affinity is always first. I always say we're the big bad blue disc to fans. Dana's painted a great picture of what we do, and not a lot of people understand that. But you'd be surprised when I call a school or a social media person, a counterpart on the other side, and I'm like, hey, that's Chris for the NCAA. I'm wondering if you could help me out. They're like, no, I'm busy. Click. The blue disc is scary to a lot of people, and especially to fans, and especially in really prominent programs. When they see that blue disc and attached to NCAA football, they're like, oh, I don't want to deal with that. That's like the cops coming to the party. So to kind of combat that, in full disclosure, our branding on that page doesn't have blue disc. It's got the NCAA logo, NCAA football logo on it, but it does not have a blue disc. And that's pretty deliberate. It's got a whole different branding look for that very reason, that we don't want to be the cops.
And is that over all sports, or is it sort of specifically towards football?
It's football and basketball is really a lot of the.
Well, and I was going to say what Chris alluded to earlier is we try to highlight these other sports that don't get the national, very public attention. So football, I mean, I'm not trying to speak for you, but we're not that worried about that audience right now. I mean, we're going after the wrestling community, the volleyball community, lacrosse, the ones who have great stories that are not being told. Those are the ones we want. So that's where our focus is.
And they're also our biggest championships too. Yeah. So like the cross championship happens in an NFL venue with 80,000 seats. So we're trying to grab these people's interest the whole season, take them along for this ride, and then at the end, give them this place to come and enjoy each other, which is the championship, and watch some amazing lacrosse.
We also don't run the FBS championship. A lot of people don't realize that. So until a year ago, those numbers were way lower. because we just didn't cover FBS football at all because the NCAA doesn't run the championship. But this past year, and I think it was a good move, we started covering FBS a little bit more just because it is such a popular sport and we need to be in that space even though we don't run the championship. There still are student athletes that are out there and it's still governed by our rules. And so Chris, every Saturday, was there for 12, 14 hours covering football games. And I think it really helps. And it grew those numbers even though we don't run the championship at the end of the year.
Okay. Great.
Can I get a round of applause for them today?